I love the conversation Colin ends up having with Stefan about the Pac-Man analogy, right? But sooner or later, Pac-Man's going to die. And no matter how good you are, the same result for Pac-Man could more or less happen to us, right? Am I being my own person, making my own decisions, or is there some higher up being who's thinking, this is what DJ Miles would say? DJ Miles would definitely say Iron Fist is an Asian character on his very first YouTube video to get a reaction out of people. I think that's what DJ Miles would say. Go ahead and now talk about something I know Christian will love, because this is something we are so passionate about, because when it's not Game of Thrones, it's going to be Black Mirror. The latest episode of Black Mirror just came out yesterday, so let me go ahead and play the trailer, and then we will begin the discussions of, I don't know, I guess one of the best discussions we'll have, because there's a lot to dissect here. So let's go ahead and play this trailer, and we'll be right back.
Bit of madness is what you need.
And that was Black Mirror's Bandersnatch. So this is Black Mirror's Choose Your Own Adventure episode, Christian, and there's a lot to dissect here. I don't know where you want to start. If you wanted to start into, just the choose your adventure discussion, or you want to talk about the story. And then, of course, we will be talking about spoilers. So please, if you haven't seen this, go ahead and watch the episode. Come back, leave your comments down below, and let's hear what you guys have to think about Bandersnatch. But Christian,
alternatively, if you finished it already, please tell us what ending you got, and we'll discuss your endings here in a moment. So do that. Yeah. What I want to talk about first is just the idea and concept of choose your own adventure before we get into the actual narrative, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I like the idea that they did this in a way that put you front and center in the narrative as well, because I think that was the interesting thing about this. Like, a lesser show wouldn't be able to do it. And the concept of the game within the episode, and therefore our game within the game within the episode, sorry to get Hamlet on you, is really about free will, right? Like, that's what the whole idea of the thing of the episode is. Whether he has free will, we're making decisions, but our decisions already prescribed, like what's going to happen, predestined. Mm-hmm. So it's a really interesting concept. And I like that even within the game is based on a novel called Bandersnatch, and Bandersnatch had multiple choose your own adventures. Also, unless I'm wrong, I think Bandersnatch is the game from Playtest. Remember the episode Playtest with Wyatt Russell, where he plays that video game?
Ooh, I don't remember. But let's go ahead. I'm going to just piggy off of that thought, though, and talk about one of the Easter eggs we did see in Bandersnatch before we start doing this deep dive. Ta-da! So check this out, man. Metalhead, which was one of your favorite episodes of last season, is a video game the whole time. Now, here's the great thing with the Black Mirror universe. A lot of people have already kind of alluded to it because of it being black and white and other hints that I don't know about. But when you watch Metalhead, because you loved that episode last year, did you think immediately it was like some computer simulation?
No, not at all. But what I do think is that it's by David Slade. David Slade directed Metalhead. So I think it might just be a little Easter egg to himself as well.
Yeah.
But I didn't get that because, again, what I love about Metalhead is like the idea that it's this bleak world. There are these things out there that if they see you, you will die. There's no, maybe I'll get away. No, you're going to die. And these people went on a suicide mission basically to make a child happy, right? Like that teddy bear at the end. That's what makes that episode really great. Mm-hmm. So I would hate if they take the emotional context of that away by making it a video game. So that's the only reason I don't want to subscribe to that. But yeah, not only that, Nosedive, right? Didn't we get a Nosedive appearance?
There was a Nosedive like video game reference thrown in there as well. So I thought that was pretty cool. Right, so this is a choose your adventure type of thing, and it definitely gets meta in its multiple layers as we see this. And we aren't new to these choose adventure type of things, right? Like even as gamers and all that, we're seeing more recent games that have these type of choices. So what I want to really commend this episode on is just kind of how, although this idea is not new or necessarily hard to do, I think Black Mirror, Bandersnatch is definitely going to be a pioneer of, or a spark that might begin this new trend of like choose your own adventure type of TV stuff, because we can definitely do it with TV, but we can't do it with movies, right? I don't think none of us can go into Avengers Infinity War Part 2 next year and be like, well, do we like that Spider-Man disappeared, or we like the part where he's alive? Pick. But whatever you do, it's actually going to be a worse outcome than you originally thought if you just would have chosen the absolute worst of the two. And that's what we get with our protagonist here, Stefan Butler, which I love the Butler last name. Again, another nice metaphor of what we're about to see here, right? That like, hey, he's going to serve, and no matter what he does, this is how you kind of have to accept your fate. And that's what I like here. This episode kind of starts off with simple commands that they tell us audience members to do, right? As we are breaking through the fourth wall, it's like, hey, what would you like, Stefan to do? Or what kind of cereal would you like him to have, right? And they start us nice and easy. And then we get into the bigger consequences of how the episode ends up playing out, right? So Stefan Butler is a computer game programmer, has this opportunity of a lifetime to complete this video game and this vision that he has. And then throughout the episode, are you playing as yourself, or are you going to play the roles and motivations and choices that you think Stefan would do? And I think that's what's so great about this episode, right? And then we see things throughout the episode play out as one of the major choices, right? Christian, does he accept the video game? Does he end up working for this company, and they have everything that he needs, right? Like music, design, a staff of people to work with, or does he finish this video game by himself in his room, right? And we see as you and I pick these answers, it leads to one thing over the other, and not necessarily a bright and beautiful ending, because it wouldn't be beautiful if it wasn't Black Mirror, right? For the most part, or not beautiful for the most part. So we see these choices kind of play out, and everything kind of gets darker. But Christian, I'll pass the baton now on to you, because you told me to write the choices I chose when I was playing this, which I got my own little thing here. So let's go ahead and kind of talk about some of the first choices that you and I have made. So let's go ahead and talk about choice number 1 in Bandersnatch. Did you end up accepting the position to join the game publisher company, or did you go back home and finish it on your own?
Well, see, this is the thing, and I'm sure this is by design. So I accepted initially, and then I cut to like 6 months later, and it was a failure, a 0 out of 0 fucking game, right? So then it was like me being pissed off, and then it immediately it rewound time, and it made me choose again. Yeah. So when I chose for the second time, I did it at home because I felt like it was trying to get me to pick that. I wondered if I would have accepted again if a different outcome would have happened. But because of that, I decided to do it by myself. What about you?
The same thing. And I think actually, I'm actually curious to know what you chose. Oh, you accepted as well, right? Okay, so here's the thing. We had a fellow Toast who said he accepted too. And I think this was the first major decision they throw at you, because in the position of Stefan, who wouldn't, right? It's like, oh, wow, now I can actually create my vision with a staff of people who can help me out. This seems like a no-brainer given the positions that we're in. But again, Christian, let me throw it back at you. Is it something you accepted because you were curious, or you thought this is what Stefan would do, right? Like, were you thinking for yourself, or were you thinking in the footsteps of what Stefan would do?
I think a little bit of both. I mean, that's the thing. As it progresses, you definitely stop putting yourself in his position. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's the thing. By the end of it, you are like this objective, this objective God who's separated from it. But early on, I'm thinking about him. So yeah, I definitely accepted, because I'm like, well, look, you got all these resources, man. They're a big company. Like, of course, it's going to put you in the best position to succeed. So yeah, that's what I did first. And then it was weird. Again, I think what's interesting about it is when you make that choice initially, Colin, right? Will Poulter, the blonde.
Yes.
He comes out and says wrong choice immediately, right? So I wonder if I would have refused in the beginning, Colin would have been like, right choice, or no matter what, are you fucked? That's the real brilliance thing about this is as soon as we get off this, I'm going to rewatch this. Like, I'm going to purposefully make different decisions just to see what happens.
Yeah. So apparently there's multiple endings. Obviously, I think there's like 5 to 6 different outcomes you can have. I know it's roughly a 45-minute to a 90-minute special. However, I heard there was 312 minutes of actual footage due to the multiple timelines and layers you can go with this story, which is pretty cool. So I guess instead of making this like a 45-minute video, let's just kind of trim the fat and just kind of break down the episode ultimately, right? So let's go ahead and talk about Colin's character because he's pretty cool. He ends up telling Stefan here that we pretty much more or less live in a matrix. Here's some LSD. Go ahead and take this and see what the hell I'm talking about, right? So now let's go ahead and major choice number 2 comes out, right? Do you let I'm jumping a step ahead. But one of the major choices was, hey, do you let Colin end up jumping or do you end up jumping for him, right? And to see what reality he's talking about. So again, I think what's so great about this episode and the scary part is, right, is the choices, right? The choices we make in life. How important are they? Or, no matter how insignificant they may seem, they could ultimately maybe now factor in a whole set of outcomes because of, the small and major choices we make in life. And I think that's what's so great about this episode as we are breaking through the fourth wall through some funny moments we can talk about in just a second. But as the episode plays out, I love the conversation Colin ends up having with Stefan about the Pac-Man analogy, right? Think about it for 2 seconds, people. Can you win at Pac-Man? Is there a way to win at Pac-Man? It's like, no. It just a set of mazes. Each level will ultimately get harder. But sooner or later, Pac-Man's going to die. And no matter how good you are, the same result for Pac-Man could more or less happen to us, right? And now this is where it gets more super meta. Is like, well, wait a minute. So everyone in the studio that's here with me, am I being my own person, making my own decisions, or is there some higher up being who's thinking, this is what DJ Miles would say? DJ Miles would definitely say Iron Fist is an Asian character on his very first YouTube video to get a reaction out of people. I think that's what DJ Miles would say. Or would he say something else? Just some food for thought for all of you guys to know, right? And this is where it kind of gets crazy. And again, I want to just give the episode just praises because it's making me think on that level, right? And Christian, I'll throw it to you because I know you're not the most religious person in the world. But for me, I was born and raised Catholic, and I don't know what people are learning 2018 about Catholicism, but I'll say this. One of the first things I learned is like, oh, God knows what my destiny is. So the philosophical question thrown at me is, well, if God knows whether or not I might be going to heaven or hell, does everything I do even really change that outcome? So if God knows I might be going to hell, then why should I live a good life or vice versa, right? If I'm going to heaven, then I might as well just commit crimes and murder people because it's okay. God got me. He's going to take care of me, So how do you feel about that kind of aspect? Because that's where my head is going too. Go ahead.
Predestination versus free will, rather, right? So whether everything is already written or whether you make choices and blah, 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 blah. But that's the heart of the whole episode, and that's what I liked about it. I don't know where your ending ended up, but one of my actual ending was that the game comes out and it's a huge success. Like I fixed it, right? Mm-hmm. And the whole idea is the way I fixed it was the illusion of free will. You think you have choices, but really it'll end the way I want it to end. And that's when you get to some of the more meta aspects of the episode, right? Where they're directly talking to you and you, the character, are talking to Stefan, right? Like it's this ability of like whether he has any free will, but do you, the person who's supposedly making the choices to begin with, do you have any free will?
Yes.
And also, I just like to throw some love at another sci-fi show that I'm a big fan of. There's a great show called Fringe. That kind of deals in parallel universes and the idea of every decision you make. That little sign, that signal where it's like a dash and then it branches out. The red sign that the guy went crazy, right?
Yeah,
that was the sign. Mm-hmm. So like that's the same concept they use. Every decision, no matter how mundane or fucking stupid it is, it has these incredible consequences you couldn't possibly imagine. So you said that you think the first major decision is just whether you take that job or not. Honestly, dude, I think the fucking Wheaties, man, the Frosties, I think that might be just as big of a fucking determining factor in where the story ultimately ends up, because that's the point. You know, you don't know that thing you do, right? Isn't another subplot about the train, right? She had to take a 30-minute train 30 minutes later.
Yes,
and it's
with
all
the
about
mother.
that concept, like little mundane things you do that have much larger ramifications and repercussions. So that's what I like about the whole thing, is that the whole thing is talking about, and it really is a Hamlet situation. It's a mirror of a mirror of a mirror, right? You're watching a story about someone making choices. You're making the choices for that person. That person's making a game about making choices. But the truth is, none of you have free will. You know, that's like, I think that's the Black Mirror ending of it. I don't know if that works with your ending or not, but that's what I took away from it.
No, absolutely.
So yeah, I want to hear what you have to say. Go ahead.
No. I think we're both saying the same things in just different languages here. So yeah, I agree with all that. All those are really good points. Now let's go ahead and kind of talk about some of the crazy decisions here, right? I mean, one of the beautiful endings, right, or the Donnie Darko-esque butterfly effect decisions is when you end up talking to the therapist, right? Or you go through the flashback when he's a kid, right? That results in this trauma of like, oh, he feels this extreme guilt because he thinks his mother's dead because of him, when we kind of learn sometimes, no, maybe his mother was always kind of destined to do that. So one of the choices we end up seeing with Stefan is, you know, do you pick up the rabbit and do you go with the mother? So what ends up happening is, you know, when you end up going, now you actually die with the mother, and then when it flash forwards to, you know, him being in the therapist's office, she's like, oh my God, he's dead. He's dead. So, I mean, well, he got his, I didn't want to say his wish. He joined his mother, you know, through the flashback, but because of the results of him changing the past, because we learn in the episode, throughout the whole episode, which again, kudos, you can't change the past. Whatever happened in the past, you can't do. And if for whatever weird reason you had the ability to do it, Christian, it's going to alter everything that you and I know it today, even as something as simple as taking a drive from work 30 minutes later, or in this situation, you know, joining your mother in that train, right? And that was one of the endings you end up getting, right? Let's go ahead and talk about one of the extreme endings, right? Do you chop the body or do you bury the body? At this point,
well, again, I buried that body. I buried it, and then they're like, nope, go back and chop that motherfucker up. So that was my yesterday. That was my Friday night, chopping up my dad.
Yeah, and of course, we all know now, as brilliant, or even the foreshadow we get in the episode of like, you know, Stefan looking up to the one programmer who did this brilliant video game but ended up murdering his wife. Now we kind of see it come back full circle with him now murdering his dad and him creating the most brilliant of games, which, by the way, I don't have an image for the guy, but I love the video game reviewer from the 1984 show where it's like, yes, marvelous, 5 stars out of 5, you know, despite what happens with the guy who actually made the game. And then you see Stefan, of course, like in jail, like, well, I at least made an awesome game, you know, and that's going to cause a lot of controversy. You know,
our boy Chris found a flow chart. Go to the chat really quick. Our boy Chris found a flow chart. You can pull it up, and it's going to give you the decision breakdown.
Ooh, okay.
Which I'm fucking fascinated by, because I need to know what happened. I mean, I'm going to go play it, like I said, as soon as we get done here, but I really want to see what happens.
Oh, yeah. Look at this. So, not at all definitive work in progress flowchart of Bandersnatch. It even starts with here, let's try and zoom this in as much as I can. With the Frosty to Sugar Puffs to the now to the Thompson twins, you know, work with Tuckersoft, talking with mom, not talking to mom. So it goes on, and it goes on. So let's go ahead and give some criticisms on it, right? I think some things people might have issue with is you can't just sit down and watch this, right? You have to be engaged, right? I don't even know why I would say that as a potential negative, but someone is going to bitch about it. So I'm going to air it out for you, Mr. Torres. Someone might have a problem of, oh my God, I'm watching something and I should actually be attentive to it, right? That could be one thing. 2, for the TV connoisseurs like you and I, right? Like, we know what narrative we're getting with this. Someone could have like one bad ending and they're like, oh, is that it? That sucks. And they won't even know the other outcomes of Stefan in this story, right? That could be another complaint people might have. A third complaint someone might have is, well, There's just too much happening, and I just don't like knowing that I lose. Here's the thing with Black Mirror, and I think the thing that's trying to be so meta with it, right? Stefan's outcome is going to suck. No matter what, he's just going to have a shitty ending. And you know what's probably going to determine all of that, which we can't even control, is whether or not he worked on this game in the first place. And guess what? We go back to, let me pull up this fancy chart here that I got from Matosi. Work with Tuckersoft, accept, refuse, or where's option 3? I don't know. I don't want to fucking do it. Right? Because that ultimately is the downslope of everything that happens with his with the character and his fate. And guess what? I think that's something someone might complain about, right? Like, I don't like that he just doesn't have a good ending. It's like, well, all of us don't have happy endings. Some people do, but guess what? A lot of people don't. And I hate that, Black Mirror is so beautiful and with its grim messaging. I think some people might have a complaint with that. Do I have a problem with that? Absolutely not. I think I just want to air the concerns out for I don't want to say the majority of the people. I think people who watch Black Mirror are pretty intelligent, but I feel like those are something some people might say. Do you think, Christian, now let me pass it on to you. What negatives do you think some people might say, or you yourself might have with the episode?
Well, one thing, I didn't love the Netflix participation part. There's a part where it's like, give me a sign, and there's a literal Netflix symbol,
thing.
Which
I loved it. Go ahead. Sorry.
Did you? Oh my God.
Yeah.
All right.
Go ahead.
The world's fucking garbage. No. I mean, it was just one of those things where, like, look, I think it's interesting, and I'm never going to say no to getting more Black Mirror. I don't think this episode is going to go down with the greats of the show. I think it's great to get like some more Black Mirror because we need it, like the crack that it is. But I think that this was great for the nature of interactive storytelling. I think it's great because it's going to be this, it's not the first thing. They did it with Puss in Boots and stuff, but it's the first thing of this kind of popularity that's embracing that kind of storytelling technique. So I think all that's great. I just don't think that narratively it's as great as as Nosedive, or even fucking Metalhead, to be honest. I think that's the ultimate thing. It's not as dark ultimately, like it is, but you didn't feel like, when I get to the end of a Black Mirror episode, I need to feel like shit. Okay. I need to feel garbage. That's the most important thing to me. And I never felt like garbage, maybe because I was a little too involved. I wasn't watching it passively, maybe because I had the illusion of control. But for me, it just wasn't the best episode in the world. That's my big criticism with it. And it's something that if this wasn't called Black Mirror and they tried to do it, I'm not sure it would have the fanfare that it has. But I'm glad it exists for sure. So that's my big takeaway from it.
Cool. So I think we did a great job. Let's go ahead and talk about the Netflix thing because everyone wanted to know about it, right? So maybe it took you out of it. For me, when you see the choice of the Netflix, the first thing I actually wanted to do, though, is, again, because I'm trying to see how this story is actually going to play out correctly, right? Let me actually kind of do everything I think Stefan would do or end up choosing ultimately, right? But now let's go back I'm like, oh, let's choose the Netflix setting. Let's talk about Dr. Haynes. I don't have an image on her, but the psychiatrist ends up saying, like, listen, Stefan, if this was even a thing, why would someone watch a mundane and boring life that you live? Think about that 2 seconds, my boy. Can you think about that? Who the fuck cares? Unless you want something exciting. And this is me playing it out, right? I'm thinking, oh shit, are we going to get like a sexy ass sex scene? Am I the only one who thought about a sexy ass sex scene? Not her fucking fighting with some goddamn swords or whatever. It's like, let's go, Marcus. I'm like, wow.
Stefan. His name's
Stefan. Well, what I call him, Marcus? I don't know why I came calling him Marcus.
Second time you called him Marcus, man.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just thinking about. Anyway, so yeah, I get that moment. I'm like, oh, well, listen. I wasn't expecting a full blown out sex scene, but I was thinking we were going to get some sexy time with the psychiatrist. So I'm sorry, because she was phrasing it like, you don't think that there should be some more excitement in your life. You know? Am I the only one who thought that? Let me know in the comments down below. I want to know your full initial thoughts on that, because I thought we were going to get some sexy time with Dr. Haynes. Holla at your boy, DJ Miles loves you. We get two options, right? You can jump through the window, and what happens, Christian? Lo and behold, now we're breaking the fifth wall, right? Like, all right, cut. This is a Netflix thing, Bandersnatch. Hey, you okay? Talking to Stefan. And then he's like, no, I guess not. And they're like, well, shit. Okay, get this guy some help. That's one of the choices that ends up happening, which I think was really cool. And then, of course, we also get the other scene of him actually attacking the psychiatrist head on. And then what was the result of that? Do you remember, Eric?
He gets dragged off, I think.
Oh, that's right. He gets dragged off from his father and talking about like Netflix and what it is and all that. And no. So I thought all that was great. But there was the Netflix scene. Christian, I know you weren't too crazy about it. Were you just kind of completely turned off when it happened, or were you just like, whatever?
Well, I think it officially ended any semblance of me being really like, oh, this is a TV show, right? Like at that point, once I'm that intimately involved, it just kind of killed some of it for me. But it was also at the end, you know? So it's like, it's nice to have that at the, I don't know. Like it took me back to that moment after I finished the story, after we got the little future, I don't know if you got this, but with Colin's daughter remaking Bandersnatch, did you get that ending?
Yeah. Wow, we didn't even talk about that. Yeah. So quickly, I'll let you go ahead and talk about it. So Colin's daughter,
that, like after I got through that part, it then took me back to the sign part, and then that's when I got the Netflix ending. So that's not like egregious. It's whatever. It's in good fun. I'm not hating on it.
Yeah.
But I did like that at the end of it, you get Colin's daughter now remaking Bandersnatch years later, kind of falling into the same pattern, right? Like throw the T on your computer bullshit. Are we controlling her, or is she being controlled? And again, what I said earlier, which I'm pretty sure Bandersnatch is the game in Playtest, the episode from season 4 or season 3, maybe. Anyway, it doesn't matter. My point is this, that I think that's kind of like another little nice Easter egg bridge to it, which is pretty cool. Ultimately, I think we're saying the same thing, which is that it's cool that they swung for the fences. I don't think it goes down in the pantheon of great Black Mirror episodes, but I don't regret watching it, and I had fun watching it.
Yeah.
What do you think in terms of the legacy of the episode?
I thought it was great. I think it's going to be good. I think a lot of people might make it one of their favorite episodes just for what it's introducing, right? Like this novelty of like choose your own adventures, right? Like I grabbed the scenes with the Detroit Becomes Human, and, you know, other video games and, you know, just books, right? You know, those aren't new. But I think what's going to be so great about this is that this might spark something new now with like future directors or even writers about like, hey, actually, because here's another thing I wanted to quickly say with, you know, this episode is that even when you end up choosing the wrong choice, right? And then we continue with Stefan's story and how it continues playing out, they actually do great cut scenes to kind of fill you in through the gaps. They're like, okay, you chose to work for the developer. Oh, you chose you chose the serial. Oh, we just saw the LSD Colin scene. Okay, now here we are in the story. What option would you like to pick? You know, like I like that. You know, I like the kind of meta narrative of like, yeah, our choices are insignificant and maybe we aren't beautiful, unique, you know, snowflakes. You know, that kind of like creeps with me a little bit, but I think people are going to be so sucked into the novelty of like, I could choose my own adventure that they won't think as far as out as I may be thinking about it. But overall, yeah, I definitely enjoyed it. Is it one of my favorite episodes for Black Mirror? You know, we'll have to see what happens. I mean, let me say this and we can kind of close out the conversation. So are we getting a season 5, or was this kind of like the appetizer into a full season 5, maybe next year, you know, December of 2019, or was this our Black Mirror special that we got? You know, and so what do you think about that, Christian?
No, I mean, I'm sure we're getting season 5 in the next couple months for sure.
Yeah.
I think this was just like tying us over, but it's too big of a hit, and that guy has too many scripts. He's already like publicly announced that we're not. I would kill somebody if we didn't get this fucking Black Mirror. So I'm positive it's going to happen, man. That's all.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so that was our discussion. So let us know what you guys think in the comments down below, whether or not you liked it or hate it. And yeah, so can't wait for Black Mirror season 5.